This is probably going to be the most in-depth brand strategy video I've ever done and might possibly ever do on this channel. If you're here to figure out how to make a brand actually work rather than just make a brand look pretty and make people think, yep, that's my brand, then stick around. We're going to go step by step into exactly how I develop strategies for clients at Nonstop Branding, where yes, we do this for a living. And sure, maybe you're just here for some free tips, I get it. So if you stick around to the end, I'm going to show you my exact brand strategy template so you can build your very own version of this. Now, if you've watched my videos before, you'll know I've done loads of videos on branding, color theory, and design tips, but today we're going full-on framework mode. We're not talking fluff, we're talking exactly how we can make brands unforgettable. To make this super clear, we're breaking down two real-life strategies. One I built for a conservation brand that's all about creating life-changing experiences in nature, and the other for an unapologetic hair care brand that's out here for trendsetters who lead, not follow. You'll see exactly how each part of the strategy shifts based on the brand's vibe. By the end of today's video, you'll know exactly how to build a strategy that's impactful and market ready. And hey, if you want to do it yourself, like I mentioned before, I've got that template link in the description below. Now, first things first is mission and vision. And yes, they're different. Now, let's clear that up because, let's be honest, clients and designers often confuse the two. Now, the mission is what your brand is here to do right now. It's what you're offering today and the value that you're bringing to the table. The vision, however, that's the bigger picture stuff. That's the where you're heading. A good analogy is to think of the mission as a heartbeat and think of the vision as the horizon. For example, with the conservation brand, the mission was about creating life-changing experiences that connect people to nature, but the vision, that was all about inspiring a global movement of conservation. So mission is what we're doing now, and vision is the bigger picture. And then we have the hair care brand. The mission here is bold and simple. Redefine style for people who don't follow, they lead. The vision, that's about creating a new standard of confidence and inspiring a generation to own the look. Can you see the difference? So when you're building a brand strategy, you want to start with these two questions. What's the immediate impact you'd like to have? And where do you want this brand to take people? And here's a little pro tip. These aren't just feel-good statements. They should make people say, yeah, this brand totally gets me. So please, 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 please do not use that fluffed up CEO language that we commonly see everywhere, because honestly, that means nothing to everybody. All right, so now we've got the mission and vision out of the way. Let's tackle the big question. Who is your brand actually for? Because to reaffirm, if you're trying to talk to everyone, you are actually talking to nobody. So here's how I do it with the clients at Nonstop Branding. If a client says we want a brand, to appeal to everyone, this is my cue to start asking the following questions. Who's your ideal customer? No, we're not talking about people who like nice stuff. We are talking people that would drive 3.5 hours to get to your shop. You want to get super clear on who they are, what they care about, and what their lifestyle looks like. What problem are you solving for them? Why do they actually need your brand? Are you giving them confidence, making their life easier, or just giving them something cool to be a part of? How do you want them to feel when they see your brand? Think of it this way. If your brand walked into this room right now, what would they sound like? What would they look like? How would their entrance be? Would it be like Stone Cold Steve Austin?
This is a Texas rattlesnake! Who got his face slapped? Oh my God!
Or would it be like a nun walking into church? No, not literally, but this is important because people connect with personalities, not faceless corporations. And the big one, what exactly is it that makes you different? As you know, there are a million brands out there, so why should anybody care about yours? Once you answer these questions, you realize that you're not just building a brand, but you're building an experience that is tailored to a certain group of people. And when you realize this, you find out that this is what makes your brand remembered. For our conservation brand, this meant targeting eco-conscious adventurers, and these are people who don't just like nature, they want to experience it and protect it. For the hair care brand, however, we're talking to trendsetters who don't want to look like everyone else. They're after a brand that fits their lifestyle, that says, yep, I lead, I don't follow. So when you know exactly who you're talking to, every piece of content, every ad, and every single message becomes way more powerful. And if you're working with a client who's foggy on who their audience is, start with who they're already attracting. Often a brand can have a natural following, although they don't already recognize it. So this is where you can do a little bit of market research on the followers. Here's another trick that I use. I often ask clients to describe their dream customer, not just age and income, but what their day looks like, what they're into, and what they'll happily drop cash on. This gives you a vision of who the brand is really for. So now that we've narrowed down the audience, let's talk about brand personality. This is what turns a brand from just another company into a brand that somebody remembers. Okay, so let's talk about brand personality. This is where you bring the brand to life. You got to think of the personality as the way that your brand shows up in the world. If your brand was a person, how would they talk? What would they wear? Would they walk into a room quietly? Or, as we mentioned, would they walk in like Stone Cold Steve Austin? And here's the thing. Personality is everything when it comes to attracting your audience. Because let's be real, people don't connect with companies, they connect with personalities. For our conservation brand, we wanted a personality that felt like a passionate guide. You know, the kind of person that would make you want to put on a backpack and go and save the world. It's grounded, inspiring, down to earth. So when people see this brand, they should feel like they're being invited onto a journey, not sold an experience. And then we've got the hair care brand. And this one needed an entirely different vibe. Here we went for unapologetic, bold, and even a little bit cocky. I imagine the hair care brand to be that friend that's always one step ahead of the trends and really doesn't care what anyone thinks. This brand isn't here to blend in, it's here to make a statement. So here's the tip. Once you nail a brand's personality, everything else gets a whole lot easier. You'll know exactly what kind of language to use, how to design visuals that match the vibe, and even what types of products and services align. For example, if the conservation brand started using edgy, high-energy language, it would feel completely off. People would be thinking, wait, is this the same brand? But because we keep that friendly, inspiring tone consistent, every piece of content feels like it's a part of the same journey. So if you're building a brand's personality, think about how it would sound if it spoke. Is it friendly, warm, no nonsense, intense? Make it feel like a real person, because that's how you make a brand memorable. Alright, so now that we've covered everything personality, let's talk about positioning. And this is the part where you need to figure out how to stand out in a crowd. And believe me, if you're blending in, you're not standing out. And if you're not standing out, no one's going to remember you. So let's talk positioning. This is how you carve out your brand's unique spot in a crowded market. And no, it's not just about being different for the sake of it. Positioning is showing people why your brand matters and why they should choose you over the competition. You need to think of positioning as answering the question, why you? Because let's be real, there are a million brands out there, and if you're blending in with everyone, congratulations, you are forgettable. For our conservation brand, the positioning was all about standing out in an eco-conscious space. There are plenty of brands offering nature tours and experiences, but they are usually very passive. So our brand's edge was all about hands-on experiences and direct engagement. They're not just selling nature trips, they're creating advocates for the environment, which ultimately means when people choose this brand, they're signing up to make a real impact in the world. Now the hair care brand is a completely different story. They're positioned as the go-to for people who want to lead, not follow. They're not interested in being a generic all-purpose hair care brand. Nope, they are here for the trendsetters, for people who really want to make a statement. This brand says, I'm not like everybody else and neither are you. That's the kind of positioning that gets remembered. So if you're building your own brand's positioning, this is exactly what I'd recommend. Start by looking at your competitors. See what's already out there and look for the gaps. Look for a space that only you can fill and lean into it. Don't try to be everything for everyone, be something specific for someone. And once you've locked in your positioning, it becomes the foundation for everything. It guides your messaging, your visuals, and even the products or services that you may offer. Every decision you make should reinforce that unique position. And if you specifically are looking to get this positioning locked down, that's exactly what we do at Nonstop Branding. We don't just create brands, we carve a space out in the market. We find that one thing that makes a brand unforgettable, and we truly turn that into their core. Next up, let's talk about brand touch points. This is where people actually experience your brand, and every single touch point is an opportunity to make a lasting impression. Alright, so let's get into touch points. Now, these are the little places where people interact with your brand. These could be Instagram posts, emails, SEO blogs, even the box that they get when they order. You want to think of touch points as moments in a relationship. Now, you wouldn't go someone on date 3 if you wanted them to stick around, so every touch point matters. And here's the secret. Every touch point should feel like a part of the same story. Like, people should almost realize it's your brand without even seeing the logo. This is how consistent the vibe has to be. For the conservation brand, we crafted touch points that make people feel like they're already a part of the mission. We're talking blog posts that tell real stories from the field, behind the scenes conservation efforts, testimonials from people who've experienced these trips. Everything is designed to make sure the audience feels like they're already helping save the planet, not just buying a ticket. The hair care brand is a completely different animal. Their touch points are all about confidence and boldness. We're talking high energy social media posts, live Q&As where they engage directly, and maybe they'll even directly DM loyal fans discount codes. Again, they're trying to push this message that their brand doesn't just blend in, and neither should you. Now, once you've got your touch points nailed, this consistently builds trust. People start recognizing your voice, your style, your vibe. It's like they're stepping into the same experience every time they see your brand. And when people feel that connection, this is when the loyalty starts to kick in. Okay, so now we've covered everything you need to build a brand strategy. But what's the next step? Keeping it fresh and adaptable as you grow. Because newsflash, the world does not stop evolving if you have a great brand. so you need to constantly evolve with it. But before I give you a key insight into the depth of brand strategy, let me give a quick shout out to our sponsor Framer. So real talk, Framer is hands down the best tool if you're looking to create interactive prototypes that feel like the real deal. Whether you're designing websites or digital experiences, Framer lets you bring those ideas to life without having to touch a line of code, which, let's be honest, is a blessing for most of us. They've got this drag and drop interface that makes designing in Framer feel almost too easy, similar to Figma. And if you're a visual designer, it's like stepping into a playground with no rules. You can test out animations, add interactions, and let clients see their brand in action right from the start. Trust me, when clients see their brand moving and feeling real right off the bat, it's an absolute game changer. If you're not using Framer yet, make sure you check them out. It's one of those tools that you wish you'll have been using from day one. You can use code JACK for 35% off. And don't tell anyone, but I'm currently working on making the first interactive brand guidelines template on Framer that is also fully customizable. However, it's taken me a bit longer than I expected to create. Alright, so last but not least, keeping your brand fresh. Because here's the thing, a brand isn't something that you set and forget. It's not a static logo sitting on a website. The best brands evolve over time, adapting to changes in their audience, trends, and also the market itself. But here is the golden rule. Whilst you adapt, you hold on to your core. Your mission, vision, and personality has got to stay the same. These are like the backbone of your brand. Everything else, it can be flexible. Experiment, try new things without losing what makes your brand unique. For the conservation brand, this means that they might add new types of experiences, partner with different conservation groups, or even try to expand to new locations as they grow. But the core mission of connecting people to nature and conservation, that does not change. That is their anchor. And then we've got for the hair care brand, as they expand, they might launch new products, test out new packaging, or even partner up with influencers, but they are never going to lose that core vibe of confidence and individuality. They're here for the bold, and that's not changing. So if you're building a brand, remember, growth is great, but only when you stay true to who you are. Adapt, but don't drift. Because the second you move away from what makes your brand unique is the second that you start losing people. And if all of this information sounds like it's a lot, it's because it really is. Building a brand that people actually remember takes strategy, attention to detail, and consistency. So this is where my team at Nonstop Branding comes in. We're not just about designing brands, but helping them grow and adapt without losing the soul. And for those of you who are designers or strategists, I've not forgotten about you. I've put together a 40-page brand strategy template that covers everything we've talked about today. Now, this is the exact framework I use for my clients, and it will guide you through every single step. So you can grab that with the link below and start using it right away. Thanks for watching, and remember that every great brand starts with an idea, but with the right strategy, it becomes a movement.